Okay, this book is a book review. I'm sorry, this video is a book review. The name of the book is called Hippocrasy, and the authors are Rachelle Buchbinder or Rachelle Buchbinder. She's a rheumatologist, and Ian Harris. He's a surgeon, spine surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. They're both from Australia. First, they talk about the Hippocratic Oath. You know, the first rule is first do no harm, primum non nocere. And so, like, what do I think of this book? I think of this book like I do most YouTube health and nutrition channels. You know, about 70% of it is good, decent, useful information, mostly for beginners. There's a few sophisticated things in here, but overall, I think the book is sort of fundamentally dishonest. And the reason I say that is, to me, they're playing the same game that tons of, you know, YouTube video channels make. Now, if somebody is an obvious BS artist, okay, like they're promoting paleo, keto, carnivore. Anybody who studied the subject a little bit knows this person, paleo, keto, carnivore, is totally dishonest. They're, you know, BS artists. Watch them for comic relief. There's not going to be much useful there. All right, but the more dangerous ones are the ones in my opinion, like the high-fat phonies, where they'll give you about 70% good information, so they get your trust, and then they screw you big time with the next 20 or 30%. And that's what this book does. They basically, especially I think the first one, Bookbinder, more so than Harris in my opinion, says some really, and I think frankly wrong, not even kind of wrong, 100% wrong, bad stuff. So it's not in the patient's interest at all. And they totally lost credibility in my eyes when they started saying some stuff that was way out of line. You know, what's good about the book? Some good vocabulary. Like if you go in this thing, yeah, they're legitimate experts in their own field. That is true. Yes, they're legitimate experts in analyzing research study. Does the book add anything you can't get anywhere else? I don't think so. I would recommend Gilbert Welch's book, Overdiagnosed. That's a much better book. Gilbert's real smart, gets right to the point. This book does talk about a wider variety of screening subjects that, you know, Gilbert Welch didn't maybe cover so well. But Gilbert Welch, he never lies, never bullshits. These guys lie and bullshit in some major ways. Okay, and I actually think she's doing it more than him. Let's see what else. They talk about what does healthcare do. The system often exaggerates the benefits of its treatments, ignores the harms, its side effects of drugs and surgeries. The true value of a treatment is much less, quite often, than what the patients perceive. You know, patients think most drugs work. Most drugs don't work. They just cause side effects. And like patients think coronary artery bypass surgery is like the ultimate treatment for coronary artery disease, whereas really for coronary artery disease, mostly for chumps. And they think stents are this great, wonderful thing, but stents don't do much except in the setting of acute myocardial infarction, for example. They talk about the basic issues. You know, cancer screening is mostly a joke, overrated. You overdiagnose turtles that you'd be better off not knowing about. You overtreat turtles you'd be better off not knowing about. They also talk about things like bone mineral density and kind of what a joke that is, and how that causes overtreatment for osteoporosis with things like calcium supplements or medications, you know, like Fosamax and stuff. And, you know, just get some exercise, eat a healthy, low-fat vegan diet, starch-based, you'd be a lot better off. They talk about how medicalization of normal grief, anxiety, hyperactivity, all these things, sarcopenia, are used just to sell drugs. Medicalization means turn some normal thing into a diagnosis and then you can treat it. Overtreatment means provide a treatment that, you know, wasn't really necessary and can have major side effects. And what I would say here, and there was something along the lines in the book, I don't think this was quite in the book, but it's almost like it's like a con artist joke, okay? You know, playing the patient for a chump. The diagnosis is the setup, you know, to con the chump. And then the treatment is the payoff where you get money from them. Okay, so if you're getting diagnosed with a disease you'd be better off not knowing about, and then having an expensive treatment where you get ripped off, then you've been made into a chump. It's a con artist trick. Okay, and there's a lot of things like that in medicine. Okay. You want to know absolute risk rather than relative risk. Absolute risk is like, what is the absolute benefit to you? What is the likelihood you will benefit from this treatment or drug compared to just saying, oh, it's, you know, 5 times better than some other stupid treatment that doesn't work too well. Let's see, what else? They talk about science being the best way to decide things, but science mostly means a lie. In my experience, most of what's called science just means big money forces something to happen. Like, you know, the scientist writes a paper for big money. The scientist has to agree with whatever big money tells him to. So that's why industry-funded papers, 99.9% of the time, they're worthless. You know, randomized controlled trials ideal, but a lot of things you can't do it. You can't do it like with a diet. You can't randomize that. USA system of healthcare is biased to always do more. Always do more. The more you do, the less anybody can say you didn't do all you could do, and you cover your ass, and you know you make more money that way. And she talks about. I thought that there were some things in this book that were quite good. I mean, they talked about how making pain into the so-called fifth vital sign was really a ploy to get more pain medicine sold, like more opioids sold. And I remember doing that because I was, you know, doing lots of spine injection procedures, epidural steroids, selective nerve root blocks, all that kind of stuff back in the day. And lots of patients were being put on opioids for pain. I didn't prescribe these ever, but you know, the pain management doctors would have to prescribe these things, or they could get in trouble if the patient said they had all this pain. It was kind of bogus. It was a way to force doctors to give more drugs. And obviously, there's an overload of opioids in the USA nowadays. You should never, ever take that stuff. Unless you're like dying on hospice, I would never take that stuff. There might be some special pain situations post-op. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to get into that. That's not the purpose of this lecture. But I'm just saying, in general, I know doctors who've had to go for surgery, and they just discharged themselves on first day post-op number 1 and went home. They didn't want to sit around in the hospital like the typical chump. Oh, I'm in pain, give me more drugs. They sit around, get a DVT in their leg, get a pneumonia, have a crappy outcome. They talk about the placebo effect of a lot of surgeries, like knee arthroscopy is quite overrated for knee pain. They talk about how in the cancer journals, you know, and they try to reproduce the studies, only 6 out of 53 landmark papers could be reproduced. Anyway, so what's the point of the whole thing? The point of the whole thing is tons and tons of medical stuff is totally overrated, and it's expensive and dangerous, and it doesn't really work, and it's never been proven. The public thinks medicine is based on science. It is not, hardly at all. It's based on making money off people. So anyways, you know, if you're bored, it's a very easy book to read. Gilbert Welch's Overdiagnosed is better. If you still want more of that same sort of thing after you finish Gilbert Welch, you can read this. I just cranked through this thing in the bathroom really fast. It was an easy book. A few good points in it.